A message from Tony on Texas death row. As I sit here and write you tonight, the state of Texas is strapping a good friend of mine to the gurney and preparing to murder him. Why? Rick Rhoades has been on death row over 30 years. I've known him myself since I arrived in this hellish place in 1996. Some guys write when they are happy. Some write when they are excited. I write mainly when I'm angry, and tonight I'm very effing angry. Guilty or innocent does not matter here. Fact is, Rick long ago said that he fought with a guy who later ended up dead. It was a fight. It wasn't murder. It was a fight that went bad, and we're sorry for the victim's family. But why does Rick have to be murdered more than 30 years later? The Rick Rhoades that the state of Texas is murdering right now is not the same Rick who lost his temper and got into a fight in the early 1990s. After more than 30 years in prison, no one is the same that they were when they first came in. So, Texas is not executing the man who got into a fight in 1991. They are murdering a man who has spent over 30 years in prison for a crime that was never intentional. He did not intend to kill anyone. It was a effing fight that got out of hand. Is that wrong? Yes. Should he be punished? Yes. And he was. He spent more than 30 years in a cage, and the last 21 were spent in constant solitary confinement. Rick Rhoades is one of the few guys here I truly considered a friend. Not a word that I choose to use lightly. Rick Rhoades was solid, a stand-up person. Rick Rhoades was someone that I have drank with, someone that I shared food with, someone I have partied with, someone that I have spent hundreds of hours talking to. We talked about our lives. We talked about what life was like for us before we came to prison. We talked about family, friends, and how tired this place made us. And that is one of the biggest reasons we are here tonight, and Rick is being murdered at the Walls unit. Rick Rhoades could have filed a lawsuit under religious reasons to have his spiritual advisor hold his foot or some such thing to try and get another 6 months. But Rick Rhoades was tired of Texas death row. Rick Rhoades was tired of being treated like an animal, hell worse than an animal. There are now laws on the book that would put pet owners in jail if they treated their dogs in the same disregard and contempt that death row inmates are treated now. I'm sure there are many people who would roll their eyes at this. They would have some "who cares how they are treated, they are on death row" comment. But that is a very slippery slope to tread upon. The US claim to be a champion of human rights around the world, and the US preach about the countries treating people inhumanely, yet have no problem allowing the state of Texas to violate the human rights of their death row prisoners. Rick Rhoades simply did not want to live another 6 months, knowing that in the end he would still face execution. I talked to Rick about this for hours on end, and Rick was tired of being treated as less than human, of being shit on, stepped on and ground down by the state of Texas, the people running this insane effing environment. Where Texas once had the best running and most progressive death rows in the country, they now have the worst. TDCJ has spent the last 21 years stripping away almost every single right and privilege we once had. Rick Rhoades had great friends who loved him and supported him, but he was also tired of living in a place where there was nothing to live for. Rick Rhoades was a man, not a number. Rick Rhoades was a friend, not a murderer. Rick Rhoades will always be remembered. Tony Medina.